From what I've heard, Pixar used Uncut Gems as an influence for Inside Out 2. And that goes to show if you're going to introduce a character like Anxiety in Inside Out 2, why not take some inspiration from probably the most stressful and anxiety-inducing movie ever made? Hey movie buffs, I'm Jack Benner and welcome to my review of Inside Out 2. Inside Out 2 is the newest Pixar sequel to 2015's Inside Out. Pete Docter, who directed the first, is not directing this one. Instead, we have Kelsey Mann directing this sequel. Following the same emotions from the first, such as joy, sadness, fear, anger, and disgust inside the mind of Riley, who is now a teenager, which leads to sudden new changes in headquarters, including new emotions to the mix, such as anxiety, envy, and embarrassment. I absolutely adored Inside Out. It is one of the funniest, creative, emotional, fitting because it's about emotions, and imaginative films Pixar has ever done. From the creative and awe-inspiring world-building, clever screenplay, endearing characters, wonderful musical score from Michael Giacchino, and gorgeous and colorful animation, and has three scenes that are emotional punch to the gut. Number one, when Joy was breaking down crying and how much she said she wanted Riley to be happy. Number two, when Bing Bong fades away and his last line, Pixar is getting me in the feels. And third scene, when Riley cries to her parents how much she misses Minnesota. Oh, those scenes almost got the waterworks going. You always do this to me, Pixar. I've said this before in the past, whether in the beginning like Up or in the middle or at the end, Pixar will find a way to make you cry. And what I appreciated greatly about Inside Out was that it never needed a villain, including one would feel shoehorned in and unnecessary conflict for the story. I feel like the emotional stakes and conflict is far more significant to the story. It does a phenomenal job at conveying an important lesson that it's okay to be sad. While showing the emotional journey of moving to a new place, it's a powerful and emotionally resonant moral that everyone can relate to and understand. And from my perspective, it works excellently as a coming-of-age film just as much as a family film. It absolutely deserved its Oscar win for Best Animated Film at the 2016 Oscars, and awesome that it got a Best Original Screenplay nomination too, although I'm disappointed with 8 nominees, which is pathetic to me. It couldn't get into Best Picture, especially since we haven't had an animated film nominated for Best Picture since Toy Story 3. This deserved a nomination for Best Picture. This, Monsters Inc., Up, and Soul exemplify why Pete Docter is hands down the best director at Pixar. It's one of my top 10 favorite Pixar films and my second favorite film of 2015 behind Mad Max Fury Road. 5 out of 5 stars, A+ movie. When I thought about Pixar sequels that have yet to get a theatrical sequel, 2 films came to mind, Monsters Inc. and Inside Out. I always saw the potential for a sequel to Inside Out, with the amount of possibilities for a continuation. You could follow another character's perspective with emotions, or introduce new emotions, or expand the world building. And you could see Riley grow up going from a kid to a teenager, sort of like seeing Andy grow up in the Toy Story movies. And I was excited when Inside Out 2 was finally greenlit by Pixar. However, I was a little disappointed that Pete Docter wasn't returning to direct. And instead we have Kelsey Mann coming in to direct, and I believe this is her directorial debut, so that could go either way. And when the teaser trailer came out, it definitely got me excited about this sequel. But it also seemed to be doing what I was hoping for this sequel to be. The second trailer was great too, even if I was a little worried it wasn't going to top the first film for me. But I have said before with Pixar's marketing, they usually don't have the greatest trailers for their films, but the actual films themselves are way better than the trailers made it out to be. So I don't underestimate Pixar's marketing too much. And this was one of my most anticipated movies of the summer and year. After 9 years of waiting, I really did not want this sequel to disappoint me. And now having seen Inside Out 2 last week on opening day, and now finally here to give you my review, I don't think it's as good as the first Inside Out. However, this one was a great continuation that's funny, charming, endearing, heartfelt, both a worthy continuation and a great Pixar sequel. Let's start with the pros. Almost a decade later, I'm still in awe at how Pixar has truly outdone themselves at making this animation look even more stunning and exceptional than the first film. all visually stunning from how colorful it is and crafting the phenomenal world building and even the great attention to detail that I like to notice, like on Riley's hair, certain details on the emotions, and even in the hockey scenes like on the sweat and how they're ice skating. I always felt like even in a mid or bottom tier Pixar movie, Pixar never disappoints at making their animation look great. Next, we got a fantastic mix of old and new emotions. And we got 3 returning voice actors from the first and 2 new voice actors, from Amy Poehler as Joy, Phyllis Smith as Sadness, and Louis Black as Anger. They return to these roles with such ease and are perfect for these characters. Sadness is great just like in the first, and it was also a great emotional journey from Joy, picking up from where she learned her lesson from the first Inside Out and doesn't rehash it, and going through an interesting realization that she may not always be there for Riley and she may not be happy and positive all the time. And I love that Anger gets more to do. He's one of the funniest characters in Inside Out. In the first film, both Bill Hader, who voiced Fear, and Mindy Kaling, who voiced Disgust, wouldn't return. I'm not sure the reason why, either they were busy or a money issue, but they were replaced, and the voice actress who voiced Disgust, I'll put her name right here, I thought she did a good job as a replacement, and I didn't really notice that much of a difference with her vocal performance. And the voice actor for Fear is Tony Hale, who you may remember voiced Forky in Toy Story 4. And looking back to Toy Story 4 and remembering how Forky acted when he was first created, I just thought him voicing Fear, I can see that. And it was a little distracting at first. I was like, yeah, that's not Bill Hader's voice. But luckily I did get used to it after a while, and I thought he was a good replacement too. Not only Anger gets more to do, but I do like that Disgust and Fear got more to do as well. And as for the new emotions we have here, first one, a terrific new standout, is definitely Maya Hawke as Anxiety. She made for a terrific new addition with her pitch-perfect voice work for the character, capturing her anxious energy, and also making for an interesting new emotion to have for the sequel. And we also have Io Debris voicing Envy, and I do like that she's gotten more voice work in animated films, and I did like her as April Neil in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem last year. And other emotions such as ennui and embarrassment are funny new emotions as well. And what I loved about Inside Out is that it did exactly what a good sequel should do, properly continuing what the predecessor established for a new opportunity to build upon things, like tell new themes, expand the world building. And I didn't really see this sequel as a rehash of the first film. It does some things like the first movie did, like joy and sadness and other emotions being out of headquarters again, but I feel like they did things differently, where the reason for the journey is a little different. So I didn't really see too much similarities to the first film where it felt like a rehash. And this story starts with Riley entering her teen years, which, yeah, that was definitely an awkward time for everyone, including myself. And capturing those awkward moments when you go through when you start your teen years and hitting puberty. And it's just a bunch of roller coaster of emotions for Riley. But it also introduces an interesting new conflict between Joy and Anxiety. Joy wants her to stay positive and keep a strong moral compass, while Anxiety wants a different approach for Riley to win a spot on the team at a hockey camp that her and her 2 friends are going to, and also to make new friends with the popular kids trying to fit in. And those two made for a very interesting conflict and clashing between both sides, and actually does create interesting conflict and leading to great character arcs for both Joy and Anxiety. And as for new ideas that are introduced in Inside Out 2, I really like the new idea of beliefs and sense of self, which are past memories establishing Riley of who she is as a person with her moral compass and pride. It's a fascinating new idea that continues to elevate the creativity and imagination of this world building. And how it becomes a great continuation of adolescence through its themes, like how to handle anxiety, self-doubt, friendship, and the start of your teen years, growing up, and different emotions coming in. I feel like it's a lot of great themes, whether you're a kid, teenager, or an adult that has been through this. Pixar definitely knows how to tell these themes in the right way. Pixar definitely knows how to appropriately tell its themes without becoming cheesy or heavy-handed. I feel like it's handled just right that everyone can learn and relate to. And as someone who does struggle with anxiety, whether that would be social anxiety, I definitely did kind of relate to this movie. I was like, yeah, I kind of did went through that when I was starting my teen years. And also does have a great message of staying true to yourself and don't pretend to be something you're not just to fit in. But most of all, don't let anxiety or self-doubt overwhelm you too much to where you become the person you don't want to be and lose your true self. And yet, despite anxiety being an antagonist in my eyes, not really a villain, something I was interested going into this film with how it would be handling anxiety, and I do like their approach of not treating anxiety as an entirely bad thing, but more so showing anxiety can be important to our lives as long as you can find that right balance between optimism and anxiety. And this movie is still very funny and still having that same wit from the first film. And there's one scene where the emotions are bottled up in a jar and kicked out of headquarters, and they come across this vault that includes an old kindergarten show Riley used to watch and an old video game character she had a crush on. And that was easily the funniest scene in the movie and has a unique blend of different animation blends. And also the sarcasm pit. That was pretty funny. I applaud Pixar for coming up with that. But more importantly, maintaining that strong emotional core that can emotionally resonate with audiences. And there is one particular scene in the climax, and I was in awe of how Pixar portrayed that scene realistically and accurately. That it even reminded me of that scene from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, where Puss has a panic attack after seeing death and Burrito is there to comfort him. Despite the context being different in those scenes in Puss in Boots 2 and Inside Out 2, I'm just more so applauding of how these two different animation studios, Pixar and DreamWorks, can capture those scenes realistically. I was like, okay, they're getting it right and it's really hard hitting. As for any issues or nitpicks, a few that come to mind. One, I don't think it quite reaches the same emotional heights as the first Inside Out. Although the dramatic scenes are really good and have an impact, they weren't quite enough that made me cry like a few scenes in the first Inside Out or got the waterworks going. And second, it does get a little predictable at times, where a few things I knew were going to come into play later for plot convenience. To sum up, it may not reach the same heights as its predecessor. Fortunately, Inside Out 2 fully succeeds as a worthy continuation. With exceptional animation, lovable mix of old and new characters, it's just as funny, witty, and well written as the first film, and does a great job at doing what a good sequel should do. I would definitely recommend this movie to you if you're fans of Pixar, the first Inside Out, or an animation fan in general. Or if there's a family movie you want to go see at the movies this summer, you got it with Inside Out 2. And if you love the first film, I definitely think you're gonna like this sequel. Or even if you found the first Inside Out to be overrated, I think you should give this sequel a chance, and I'm curious to hear what you think of it. I am so happy that 9 years later, this sequel didn't disappoint me and delivered what I was hoping for in an Inside Out 2, and I'm happy to say, I really hope we get an Inside Out 3 in the future. And it's always great after the endings of Inside Out, you're just like, I want to see where the story continues. And now to grade it, I'm going to give Inside Out 2 4.5 stars out of 5, an A-. And I think this is top Furiosa for my favorite film of the summer so far, with this grossing $155 million on its opening weekend, and that is the second highest opening weekend for Pixar since The Incredibles 2, and another $100 million plus opening for them since Toy Story 4, and so far the highest opening weekend of the year so far, topping Dune Part 2. All of that would likely because of the almost 10-year wait to one of Pixar's beloved films, and all the great reviews it's been receiving, and school's out, kids and families wanted to go see this movie, and we haven't had $100+ million opening since Barbie almost a year ago, and that's really refreshing after Onward, Lightyear, and Elemental underperformed at the box office, unfortunately. Soul, Luca, and Turning Red went straight to Disney+. I think it's very refreshing and a huge win for Pixar. So with the box office success and great reviews, I think it's most likely that a third film will happen in the future. Regardless of how long I have to wait for it, I will be there for an Inside Out 3. And as for 2 Pixar rankings, where would I rank this film with the 2020's Pixar films so far from Onward to Inside Out 2? Here's how I would rank those 7 films. Number 7 would be Lightyear. I remember giving that a B when it came out, and thinking about it over time, it's getting worse and worse the more I think about it, and I see that as a mediocre movie, so I would give that a C+. So Lightyear definitely stays at the bottom, just a pretty mid or bottom tier Pixar movie, honestly. Number 6 would be Elemental. Number 5 would be Turning Red. Number 4, Onward. Number 3, Luca. Number 2, that is where I'm going to put Inside Out 2. And number 1 is hands down Soul, and also my favorite film of 2020. And where would I rank Inside Out 2 in my Pixar ranking? It doesn't quite reach the top 10 Pixar movies for me. I would probably put it close to my top 10. I would put it at number 12, right between A Bug's Life at number 11 and Toy Story 4 at number 13. So that's where it would stay in my Pixar ranking. And do I think this movie could win the Oscar for Best Animated Film? And with the great reviews and that I love this movie, I'll keep it at number 1 for now, but I do want to keep my eye out for competition later this year that could give it a run for its money. I could see it like Incredibles 2, where I thought that could be the frontrunner to win, but then Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse came out and dominated and won the Oscar for Best Animated Film, so something like that could likely happen this award season, so we'll see how it goes. Other animated films I'm excited to see this year. We got The Wild Robot from DreamWorks, that looks great. Moana 2 looks very promising. I hope that sequel's worth the wait. And no trailer for this yet, but I'm excited to see footage from The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, an anime Lord of the Rings prequel adventure. That gets me excited. I want a trailer for that right now. Something I should let you know, the only sequels to win the Oscar for Best Animated Film are Toy Story 3 and 4. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and How to Train Your Dragon 2 was close to winning, so unless if you're Toy Story, sequels don't always win the Oscar for Best Animated Film. So with the competition for Best Animated Film, I'm curious to see how it goes. If could Inside Out 2 be the frontrunner, or something else could be the winner, so we'll see how it goes. So I would like to hear from you guys. What do you guys think of Inside Out 2 if you've seen it? Do you agree, disagree with my review? Or if you haven't seen it, are you interested in seeing the film or not? Let me know down below. And I also would like to ask, did you prefer Inside Out 1 or Inside Out 2? Let me know down below. Did you enjoy hearing my thoughts on this movie and want to see more reviews like this in the future? If yes, please hit that like and subscribe button if you're new here, and don't forget that notification bell for my next upload in the future. It really means a lot. All my social media links are in the description down below. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you want to see any more of my written reviews, I do have a Letterboxd account, so if you'd like to follow me on there as well. And until the next video, I'm Jack Benner, and look forward to another movie review.